Welcome to the Happy, Healthy Life Podcast with your hosts, Rob and Randy, who reveal the truth, the lies, and confusion about health so that you are no longer the victim to mainstream medical dogma and you are the hero to your own happy, healthy story.
Winter has a way of slowing everything down, our movement, our energy, even our metabolism. And a lot of people come out feeling heavier, more tired, and more stuck. Well, here's the good news. Spring is a season for renewal. Today, we're going to show you how this season is a season to reset your metabolism, shed that winter weight, and step into a completely new version of your health. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Life Podcast with your host, Rob
Randy,
and we are
the
the
happy, healthy
Happy Healthy
guys.
Guys.
Although that if you're watching us on YouTube, that guy behind you, he doesn't look very healthy. Who is that?
Yeah, that guy right there has been through it, and he's gonna be hanging out with us today. But yeah, the goal is to not be looking like that guy right there behind us.
Yeah, I think he was making a lot of the mistakes that we're going to talk about today when you try to get ready when spring hits and you try to get ready for summer. I think this guy did all those mistakes. Looks like it didn't end up too well for this guy. Looks
No,
pretty. That's not thin. That's dead.
yeah, that's we would call him. He's bony.
Yeah.
He,
Full-blown skeleton hanging from behind you. I didn't, if it's Halloween or what's going on here, man, I'm loving it.
he's bony. Dr. Randy, obviously we are in different locations. I am in Denver, Colorado right now. Dr. Randy, how's things going right now down there in Dallas, Texas?
Yeah, it's awesome, man. This is a beautiful time of year. Dude, it was in the 90s this weekend. Crazy already getting that hot, but there's a nice breeze, beautiful sunlight, and we'll talk about that today. It's one of my favorite times of year, just starting to really get outside more and the importance of getting quality sun and how that affects your metabolism. And one of my top strategies getting ready for the summer. Like we say, you'd want to be able to know that you could be Speedo ready. Not that you would ever wear a Speedo, but if you had to, you would like to know that you could. Or for you ladies, you've got that swimsuit in your closet that you'd love to break out, and we want to help you get ready. Obviously, looking great is awesome, but more importantly, let's do it in a way that's healthy because ultimately, being healthy, we talk about being happy and healthy. Really being healthy is really the goal to creating the life that you want. And from that, there's a lot more joy and happiness when you're investing in yourself and you're taking great care of yourself. Something shifts, right? When you're really focused on your own health and leading by example. It's hard to find depression in that. It's hard to be anxious in that. And exercise is so good, and feeling great is awesome. But hopefully today will connect with a lot of people because if you've been putting it off and you've been packing it on during the winter, man, let's get it going. Let's rock and roll. Now is the time to step up your game.
Yeah, it literally is the time. I mean, if you think about this time of year, it's springtime. And I feel like, springtime, I don't know if you follow like the equinox and the cycles of how everything works, but
Yeah.
this cycle, if you look around you at springtime, it really is a time of rebirth and renewal, right? It's when the flowers are starting to bloom.
Yeah.
Flowers that have been dormant for such a long time. Heck, even just here, I'm looking outside. There's this, I think it's a cherry blossom tree right outside the window here, and it
Wow.
was dormant last week. And literally from
Mm.
one day to the next, all of a sudden it's got these beautiful white blossoms on it that have just sprung up. So at this time of year, I feel like it's a really good time, and it is a time to pause and take a step back from what it is that you were doing during the winter because it's winter is that time where people tend to slow down a little bit, especially right
Mhm.
after Christmas time. They
Yeah.
start slowing down, metabolism starts slowing down, people start moving a lot less. That's kind of the winter season. You're eating more of those comfort foods, the foods that make you feel good inside, that make you feel warmer inside. And so it's that time where people just give themselves permission to let themselves go, right? And so
Totally.
now it's time to pause, reset, and really spring into better health. spring into taking the action steps that are going to help you as you are going into summer and then ultimately the rest of the year. Because before we know it, winter's going to be back, coming back around. But also, even quicker than that, before you know it, you're going to have to go put on a swimsuit if we're being real about this. And so let's make sure that you are swimsuit ready. So let's talk about some of the mistakes that people have been making, or maybe some of the habits that people have allowed themselves to get into during that winter season, that we have to shed those old habits, and then we need to start putting better habits into place. Because, for a lot of people, it's not about doing everything right. It's about doing those little things right. And so what are some of those little things that you see people do, that they get in this bad habit of doing over and over and over, that could have caused their metabolism to slow down or even stop?
Yeah, it is the little things, those little victories that you're looking to stack, but it seems like those victories go by the wayside. And one of the things that you see a lot of, and I know I used to do this, is during the winter time, a lot of times you're inside more. So you're definitely, not getting outside, getting natural light. But what'll happen is there's a lot of boredom that can potentially happen. And so you'll see people starting to eat or snack multiple
Mm.
times per day. And that really, back, if you remember, Dr. Rob, back in the 80s and the 90s, that was kind of the trend, is to eat lots of little small meals to stoke your metabolism, is what they would tell us. Because every time you eat, there is a thermogenic response where your body's going to burn more calories. That is true, especially when you eat protein. But the problem with that is every time you eat, you also secrete insulin. And every time you secrete insulin multiple times a day, you'll have the tendency to create an environment of growth. Insulin is a healthy hormone, it's natural, it does a great job, it's vital. But if you constantly stay in a state of hitting insulin by eating, and it only takes maybe 30 to 40 calories of food to get an insulin response, you're going to set yourself up to store fat. Some of you this winter, you may have fattened up, and it probably has a lot to do with all of those small meals. And there's really no therapeutic or thermogenic benefit eating more than 2 to 3 times a day. If that was the case, then I don't know what, eat 10, 15, 20 times a day and you'd be skinny. And we know that's really the average American eats, I think, 18 times a day. And that has to be maybe even higher in the winter, because it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a handful of cashews. I know you can't connect to that story, but back in the day, you couldn't put a bag of cashews in front of you. So a little handful of cashews, a sip of your latte, sucking on a sucker or a piece of candy. It could be like a protein bar or a protein shake, things you're trying to do that you think are healthy. It could be, an apple, a piece of fruit, your dinner, your breakfast, your lunch, chewing gum with artificial sweeteners. Like, there's a lot of little things that we do all day long that can really create a lot of fat storage. And I think people really start to feel that as they're coming out of that winter season, almost like that bear who's been eating all the time to store up all that fat and shut down their metabolism to go into hibernation. Not a good metabolic state for humans.
Not a good metabolic state for humans at all. And I think, and then that's a huge point about the snacking. So we can shed the snacking. We'll talk about how to be able to shed that and what you can do instead. And I think another one of those things is people move even a lot less in the winter. So you get in a habit, more of a sedentary type of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Maybe, coming indoors and watching TV more, or being on your computer
Mm.
more, or being, scrolling through social media more. And that's a whole different topic, trying to compare yourself to everybody else who's not actually real, or just showing you their highlight reels. But also with that comes getting a lot less sunlight. And so, you got to get yourself out there in the sun. We talked about that last week. We always talk about that, where the sun provides energy for your body, energy that your body needs, scientifically speaking, in order to be able to create a healthy metabolism. So those are two things that I think people get away from. And so now's the time, get your body moving, get your body outside, get your body in nature as much as possible. Like I was at the park yesterday here in Denver, and it was great seeing people walking around barefooted, out in the sun, out playing, moving their bodies, biking and
Mhm.
walking and doing all those different things, getting their bodies into nature. So it's really time to start shedding being sedentary or being inside and being on technology, right? And now you're just getting bombarded with all the EMFs coming at you as well. So there's a lot of bad things that are happening by being inside versus getting outside and getting your body moving.
Well, and let's clarify there because you didn't mention one time about being inside a gym. It's not about more working out. You were outside, you were in nature, you were connected, and getting outside is vital. I love it when people ask me about stuff going on with TV, and my answer is I have no idea. And when I say that, then I already know I can go look in the mirror and my body looks amazing because I know that I'm not wasting a lot of time on social media or watching TV or numbing my brain inside. That means I'm outside. I would rather take that hour and go for a nice walk in the morning than to take that hour and catch up on Sports Center. Not that you can't enjoy those things, you totally can. But you're right when you talk about the sunlight. It really is a charge to our body. It's like recharging our battery. It provides, some science says, and I do get nervous when we start getting into technical scientific terms because it is hard to science the human body. So let's just go back to our ancestors and heck, let's go back to Sardinia, where people, some of the longest living and healthiest people in the world are, where they get the most amount of sun per year. Being outside charges your body. In fact, what you'll find is when you're outside more, you eat less because if your body's getting that energy and charge from the sun, you're going to have less requirements for nutrients from food. So remember, a lot of times we think we have to eat a bunch to get energy and snack all day. It really isn't true. The sunlight provides one of the cleanest, most usable sources of charge and energy to the mitochondria. And so I find myself changing a lot during the summer because I eat more fruit. I drink more fruit juices. I eat a lot less because I'm just not as hungry. And I know that has to do with the sun. Not that you need to cut calories to lose weight. In fact, that may be one of your problems. But getting sunlight is one of the most powerful things you can do, especially early morning if you can, if you're worried about getting sunburned, or even in the evenings watching a sunset. How parasympathetic relaxing is that to the nervous system? And especially if you stop eating seed oils, you won't burn as much. I can tell you that for sure. Don't be scared of the sun. Be scared of the sunscreen and the sunglasses and all the things that are blocking your body from getting that charge. Sunscreen's going to wreck your hormones and it's going to make it harder and harder to create the proper hormones to burn fat. Don't fear the sun. This fear of the sun really is something new. Our ancestors just weren't scared of the sun. How did we get so scared of the sun, Dr. Rob?
I have no idea where that even started. And it's crazy too, because I was skiing this last weekend and it was really sunny outside. Who knew that even in Denver, Colorado, it was going to be 90 degrees out
Did
here
it hit
this
90 in
weekend?
Colorado
It hit
too? Wow.
90, hit
Wow.
90 on Saturday. And so but being in the mountains, you've got the sun reflecting, or the reflection of the sun with the snow. And so everybody's putting
Hmm.
on sunscreen and you're reading what's on the labels of all of these things.
Oh
And
man.
I picked up one and looked at it, and the very first three ingredients in it were all seed oil, and it said seed oil on it. And
Unbelievable. I mean, they're
so
telling you right on the label that this is toxic for you. What you put on your skin gets into your bloodstream. It's
it
nuts.
does. And so I think it's just one of those things that, and I don't know where it started to answer your question, where the sun got vilified, and all of a sudden, somebody said that you got to start putting these chemicals on your body. Who knows? We know that that's not what our ancestors were doing. But let's talk about the three mistakes that people are making right now, and then we'll show you how to replace those mistakes and what
Mhm.
to do. But what are the three mistakes that people are making when it does get to springtime and people do start thinking about going, you know what? I need to be spring cleaning my body or taking better care of myself because summer is coming, which honestly is kind of ridiculous if you think about it as well. If people are only thinking about taking care of their body at this time of year just because they're going to get into a swimsuit, but it
Oh
is
no.
it is what it is. You should be
Yeah.
living this
Yeah.
way the entire year. However, what are the three mistakes that people are making to try to do it on their own? What are the top three things that most people listening probably have already done, or
Mhm.
everybody else is going to be doing right now to get a better metabolism?
Well, I can speak to the one that I used to do all the time, which is I would go very low carb, high protein.
Mm.
And if you look at the trend right now, and maybe it's just me, but it seems like everybody's promoting tons and tons of more protein. It seems like that is the new thing. You got to get your protein. You got to get your protein. And listen, protein is important. It's vital. You need it. If in fact, if you're not getting it, there's consequences for sure. But I think there's been an over focus, whether it's on the carbohydrates, on the fats, on the proteins. It can get very confusing. But a lot of times, what you'll do, and I used to do this, I would cut on my carbohydrates and pump up my protein because protein is thermogenic. It can raise your metabolic rate for a little bit as you're eating and chewing and digesting. And then by cutting out the carbs, you're trying to reduce your insulin response. The problem is it doesn't work that way. When you eat lots of protein without adequate carbohydrates, then your body is going to raise cortisol because cortisol is going to tell your body to break down muscle to make glucose because you need the sugar. And so what ends up happening is, yeah, you might lose some weight, you might lose some water weight, you might drop a few pounds, but what you're doing is you're creating a metabolic environment now where your body's having to make its own glucose in order to sustain you. And if you do that long enough, you will go into adrenal fatigue and you will wreck your thyroid. How many chronic dieters have we ran into over the years where this is what they've done? And it's this vicious yo yo cycle. And it just becomes harder and harder every time you keep dropping that same 10, 15, 20 pounds. Because in your brain, right, you tell yourself, like, I can do this. I've done it before. I just got to cut out my carbs, eat a bunch of protein, and I'll be fine. And I can get that 10 to 12 pounds off and I'll be good. You may lose the weight. It'll get harder. You know it's gotten harder. And then ultimately it's going to be really weird because now you're storing fat in just odd places and it becomes harder and harder to get that back. So from the adrenal fatigue to the brain fog to the low energy, disrupted sleep, don't be that low carb dieter that's wrecking your metabolic hormones, which ultimately is going to wreck your sex hormones.
For sure. And I think the second mistake that people make, and I know I did this, and I would do this every single year at this exact same time of year, because for me it was the only thing that I've been taught, and it was pretty easy to do. It's just start reducing calories.
Yep.
And so I would reduce the calories to, I don't know, I'd be eating anywhere from 500 to 1500 calories a day, which was a
Mm,
dramatic reduction of what I was eating during the winter months in order to lose that weight. And I would push and push and push as hard as I could by starving myself.
yeah.
And like you said, I would lose 10 to 15 pounds. And then as soon as I added any calories back in, by the time summer would roll around, I would gain back that 10 to 15 pounds that I had lost the previous year, or actually probably right before I was going into the winter months, and then gain it back, lose it again in the spring before summer, and then gain it right back right after right after swimsuit season was over. And that's what happens when you're simply just reducing calories and counting calories versus what we always talk about is counting nutrients. That's a
Yes.
huge mistake right there because now you're starving your cells when you're reducing calories of the nutrients that they need in order to be able to function. And when you're doing that, you're not only making a more sluggish metabolism, what you're doing is you're wrecking it for the future. And
Mhm.
because metabolism is all about health, right? You can't have a healthy body with a wrecked metabolism. And you can't have a wrecked metabolism and a healthy body at the same time. It does not correlate like that, right? Health all is all about having a healthier metabolism. So when you're
Well, on
counting
that
calories,
point
yeah.
too, what ends up happening is you keep doing that for years, and you may have got away with it in your 20s and your 30s. And now you're 35, 40, 45, 50 plus, and it's not working. And then you convince yourself, I must be getting older. And that's the biggest lie because now you're the ultimate victim. And we know that victims can't heal because there's nothing you can do about your age. I don't care what your doctor says because your doctor will blame it on you getting older as well. But maybe it's not your age. Maybe your strategy has been completely wrong and you keep doing it over and over and over, which clearly, if you don't change your strategy, I wouldn't expect any type of a different result. In fact, the strategy that worked yesterday, really for anything in life, doesn't always work tomorrow. You better be ready to pivot and shift. And so, yeah, it's never the age. So let's just blow that myth right out of the water too.
It's not, and it's not calories in, calories out.
Right.
And I think what we should do, Dr. Randy, because we only have like 4 or 5 minutes left for today's podcast, we'll talk about mistake number three. And as we talk about mistake number three and the thing to shed, because we're talking about shedding and then adding better things as you renew and repair your body's metabolism, let's give everybody the blueprint next on the next episode, the blueprint of exactly what it is that they should be doing to be repairing and renewing their body and their body's metabolism, and just spend an entire episode on that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, today we're giving you some things to be concerned about. Maybe these are old things you've been doing that haven't worked, but yeah, there is a simpler way. We've created a simpler way. That's one of our superpowers is taking complex situations and making them very, very simple. So I love that idea because right now we are in a metabolic crisis and all the dieting and all the calorie counting and all the eat less, move more has us more metabolically sick. So clearly, the strategies we're being taught don't work. And so once you realize something doesn't work, now it's time to go, okay, maybe it's not my fault. Maybe something else really is going on. And now being open to maybe doing something different, which has really been our message now for many, many years. You're not broken. There's just some interference. Something's going on. And let's get to the bottom of it. Because once you remove it, it's beautiful what happens.
Let's do that. Okay, so on the next episode, we are going to peel back the curtain and show you the exact blueprint that we use to be able to help people and really guide people to having a healthier metabolism, which is going to be perfect timing to set you up to be able to be at your very best, not just for springtime now. You'll be at your very best before summer even ever even gets here. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. So with that being said, let's talk about then mistake number three that
Yeah.
people are making that is wrecking their metabolism and has been wrecking your metabolism through the winter months, and that people try to use in order to be able to help them restore and renew their metabolism. And that mistake is exercising more
Oh,
and
wow.
adding
Yeah.
exercise in as their strategy to help them heal their metabolism, as if exercise has anything to do with your body at a cellular level and getting to the cause of the problem. And so I think that's a huge mistake that people are making. Not that exercise, there's nothing wrong with exercise. We love exercise. I've exercised every day now for as long as I can remember
Mhm.
this year, because exercise is good for your health. But when it comes to healing your metabolism or helping you to be able to lose weight, that's not the strategy.
Yeah, it goes right with the eat less, move more. You got to starve yourself and you got to burn more calories, which if you understand that law of thermodynamics in that game that they're running on us, is when you do that, your metabolism has to adapt. And the baseline for all of us, we all have a metabolic thermostat where you're set, and your metabolism will control what you weigh, regardless of what you do. After everything that you've tried, whether it's peptides or fasting or low carb or keto or carnivore or whatever it is, when all the dust settles, you're right back where you were. And so, if your metabolism controls what you weigh, the worst thing you could possibly do is now to put yourself in constant states of stress by exercising. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they start getting up every morning, going to the gym early, cutting out, which is cutting into maybe a couple more hours of sleep that would have done them way more good than the exercise, and going to the gym on an empty stomach and doing these workouts, raising their cortisol, wrecking their metabolic profile, and now making their body burn calories at a lower rate. It's very dangerous. I did it for years. And so the exercise thing, that's a huge mistake. People start doing a ton of cardio, breaking their body down more. And a healthy metabolism, really, Dr. Rob, is not about all the stresses you can break your body down with. It really is less of that. How do we create an environment where your body can now repair, heal, and recover, and keeping your nervous system in that parasympathetic response where your body's adapting better to any and all stress? Because we don't just have physical stress, we have emotional, we have spiritual, we've got a lot of things we deal with. So don't make the mistake of over exercising or doing tons of early morning cardio on an empty stomach to try to get your health back. Ultimately, that's going to run you into the ground, blow out your adrenals, and wreck your metabolic rate.
There you go. So tune in for the next episode. We're going to give you the exact blueprint on how to heal your body's metabolism, how to spring into action to have a happier, healthier you. So thanks for listening today. Make sure that you like the show, you share it, you comment. And if you have any questions about the show ever, any comments, or you want to reach out to us, please do. We love hearing from you. We love hearing about your wins as well. You can reach out to us on our Instagram at the H2 Life, and just let us know that you're loving the show, and also share with us any kind of content that you want to hear us get over to you, and we're happy to do that. So thanks again for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Happy Healthy Life podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure to follow them on Instagram at the H2 Life, or on YouTube and Facebook at the Happy Healthy Guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.